What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to the Funky Brain Podcast. And my name is Dennis, and today's episode is brought to you by MZ Electric here in Colorado. It's the #1 electrical service provider in the Denver metro area. Your home is your greatest purchase you're ever going to have, and MZ Electric techs are licensed, background checked, and drug tested, and highly qualified to help you maintain the highest quality standard for your family. So whether you want to update your electrical panel, install a hot tub, update your fixtures, remodel your kitchen, your basement, MZ Electric will walk you through the process, provide competitive prices, and get the job done right the first time. MZ Electric has been proudly serving you peace of mind for over a decade. So call or click today, 303-933-9220 or mzelectric.com. So our guest today is such an inspiring guy, and one of the reasons I reached out to him is that I was interviewing Mr. John Bafar on PeaceVision and Food Time Entertainment, and Vik was there because he's a huge contributor to PeaceVision. Mr. Vik Chhabra, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, Dennis. I'm doing well.
For those that don't know what PeaceVision is, I'm kind of a little plug. It's a portal for change. And one of the reasons we hooked up and became friends is because I love it. It's free from politics, racism, violence, and all the crazy crap that's going on out in the world. It's basically like a channel for peace. So how would you describe it?
PeaceVision is just a place where you can go and hear positive stories, everything from inspirational quotes to just kind of helping everyone get in the frame of mind where there's better things out there. There's a brighter way to live your life, and I think that it's filling a huge need.
The main reason that Vik and I connected are journeys in sobriety and recovery. So maybe you could share with our listeners a little about your story, like what it was like, what happened, what it's like now in your life.
For me, it started about 1.5 years ago, actually much further back. I mean, if you really think about it, where I have a very addictive personality. My dad, I'm a mixed breed, but my dad was a writer, a journalist, and he smoked cigarettes. He was a womanizer. He was an alcoholic. And, I started to fall into that trap. He didn't break the chains that he, was given. And I just noticed that I was going down a very dangerous path. For me, the biggest thing was alcohol. I wasn't like coming home every day, drinking heavily. When you're around friends, it really kind of was a go-to. The thing was like, let's all party, let's all drink, let's all have a good time. And it got to I do have a DUI from years ago. And that was like, almost 10 years ago. So that should have been a warning sign. I just continued down that path. And I literally heard a voice telling me, you got to be careful. You got to be careful. You got to quit. You got to quit. You got to quit. So to kind of wrap it up, about 1.5 years ago, I was at a fundraiser and had way too much to drink. And, they want you to give. They want you to donate, right? So they want all the curtains dropped. They want to get... And that was it for me. I had way too much, and I have like I said, an 8-year-old, and I have a wife, and those mean more to me. And I also am very thankful now because as we're going down this very interesting path in life and this journey, that it's time to have complete mental clarity, to focus on what needs to be done. If you really want to take action, if you want to build bridges, if you want to help save, that little world that you live in, that little pocket, you need to have your sobriety. Because it's too easy to get lost in that little drink, So that's basically what led me to where I'm at now. I'm trying to live a mind, body, spirit life. And, we've been told in any form that you want that your body is a temple and should be treated as such. So I'm really trying to focus on me.
When you said like what Buddha said 2,500 years ago is like, it's a duty to take care of our bodies. So it can be an instrument of peace, an instrument of spirit. To flow through us, because a lot of us think we have problems, all these problems in our lives, but the truth is most of us don't. You don't really have problems until you start having health problems. Then you have a problem. But like money, relationships, you can always get more money or a new relationship. You can always go out and experience the abundance of the world until you have health problems. Then you have problems, right? So what are some of your struggles that you've overcome to get to be, because a lot of people that are watching this, they see a couple of successful guys and they're like, they must have it easy or something like that. But we all have our struggles.
Oh, big time.
So share with us some of your struggles that you were able to overcome to get to be like that man who we see here today.
With all these, you'll read these motivational books or you'll see these videos or these podcasts and, you'll even spend time reading spiritual teachings and you're like, this is a process. It's a constant evolution of the mind. We're going through this thing right now where, I still struggle. I mean, I am struggling more. It's almost like the minute you surrender and you're like, you know what? I'm going to become the person that I was meant to be. So when you go through that, like quitting alcohol is just the first step. Like good luck when you have to deal with outside pressure or parenting and you don't have that vice to go to. You know, that's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to like coach a little league team and get all your frustration out, come home and you're not gonna have that beer to run to, right? So you got to find a way. You might, you know, it's constant. There are still struggles. For me, you know, eating and exercise. Life is balance. Everything in life is balance, and the world is completely out of balance right now, and that's why there's complete chaos, right? So it might be a virus or a pandemic. It might be things that we can't control. But when you are out of balance internally, you're going to struggle much more than someone that's really trying to work on themselves. I think the key on my walk, at least, is recognizing as fast as possible that, you know, maybe I shouldn't eat my kids' leftover fish sticks and mac and cheese. Like, I don't need that, you know? It's just those little glimpses that you have that it's happening internally, that there's this realization of, no, I want to work on myself and I don't need that candy. I don't need that kid's chocolate. I should go outside and meditate, or I should go for a walk. So the process of going through sobriety or spirituality, it's a lifelong journey, but it's those initial steps. The more sacrifices that you're willing to make right now, the greater your path will be and the greater your walk will be, and you'll help others. And that's the key. You can't help others. And I've tried it. I've tried helping others, but I haven't helped myself first, and everything just fails when that happens. It feels good, but then when it's time to look internally, there's nothing there.
What you're talking about is another common misconception, is that it's just I have to stop drinking, okay? But like you just said, stopping drinking is the first step. The reason most people fail in sobriety is because it's really hard. You know, it's because life is hard. You know, smoking weed, snorting cocaine, that's not the problem, right? The problem, that drinking, snorting cocaine, smoking weed is what I'm using to deal with the problem, which is I don't know how to cope with life. My thinking is wrong. And I get overwhelmed, insecure, full of fear. And so rather than feel those feelings and find mature adult ways to get through them, I would go drink or I would get stoned. So I don't have to feel those things. So when you get sober, it's not about not drinking. It's about learning how to live successfully.
We run to numb ourselves because it's not a pretty world, right? But it is pretty once you start to see clearly. You know, it's funny, right? I'm on this huge environmental path, and I have been for many, many years, but now I'm like all in. It's like, you know, what do I love? What fuels me? And for me, it's all things nature. I find that that's just something that rewards me, right? And I want to be around for my child. And it's funny. It's like, you know, if you start to break those chains that are really holding you back, and the strongest ones are going to be addiction, you know, and even pornography, that's an addiction for millions of people. That's a whole nother area that needs to be addressed. It's those endorphins that we, you know, feel artificially it's killing society. You know, you look back at your childhood. I'm a Generation Xer here. I'm like coming up on mid-40s, where I look back at how the world has evolved, and it's not a pretty place. So if you can kind of go back to, this might sound weird, but thinking like a child where everything is new again. The minute you break that fog, you know, and that morning layer that's in your head every morning, and you can go outside and meditate or just go for a walk, you hear the birds differently. You see lawns differently. You're like, why do I even need to treat my lawn anymore? Butterflies start coming. It's a process. It's a process, but you have to eliminate the biggest chains first. And that's where the minute that is done, you'll seek things, the small things will fuel your walk. That it's just those little moments of anything from growing your own food to just spending time by yourself. You're more comfortable with that. Where before, if I was going to spend time with myself, all these voices would come at me and I'd crack a beer or have, you know, whatever. You got it. You have to stop running to numb. And everything just starts to become clear, but it's not easy, but it's just a matter of, it's a calling. You have to want this. You have to want to think differently.
And I love it. And one of the things you said was about being a child again, having that wonder. Don't lose your sense of wonder. Like I remember, you know, one of my goals was that it's not just sobriety, not just not drinking or smoking weed or doing drugs. It's to have that sense of wonder, to look at the world, like you just said, growing your own food, look at butterflies and the green grass and the blue sky and enjoy all of that. And I remember there's a story I tell about when I was watching my little niece when she was like a year and a half, 2 years old, something like that. I was babysitting her, and I was really not very qualified to babysit 1.5, 2-year-old. But you know what she did? She was in the living room. I was in the kitchen, and my sister said, "Don't give her anything to eat," because it was afternoon.
Yeah.
So she was in the living room watching something on TV. I don't remember what it was, but she was giggling her ass off. She was just having so much fun. And then she came into the kitchen and she wanted a Twizzlers. So there was Twizzlers on the counter. And I had to say no, because my sister said, don't give her anything. So she went from hysterically laughing to hysterically screaming and crying, right? And tears running down her face was red. And I was like, well, I don't want this. So I gave her a Twizzlers. Because so she would stop that. And she went from hysterically crying to laughing again. And she turned around with her Twizzlers and walked into the living room. So she was living in the moment, that freedom of expression, to laugh, to cry, to scream, to yell, which we don't have anymore because we're always worried about like our 401ks or who the freaking president is or what's going on with this or with that. We're thinking too much. We're worrying too much. You said we're out of balance.
Yes, we are. If you look at the world, you look at your world, you look at the outside world, and what the outside world wants to do is consume you, consume your mind, consume your energy. You know, to me, energy is a currency. Where you put your energy, is really what you get done. But if you're on, you know, I suffer with Facebook, right? It's like, 'cause I'm trying to, with this whole environmental effort, you want to keep that crowd, you want to build a brand kind of subconsciously, right? You just want like-minded people and you want to manifest things. You want the things to go out and just, and have a ripple effect. But that can be very dangerous. So it's like, okay, screen-free Sundays. You know, I'm going to spend time with my family. We're seeing this interesting cycle right now where, and that's why I think for me, it was cutting off the alcohol and really kind of working on my own health right now, where we're going back to simplified living. And everyone's starting to wake up and say, do I really need that big house? Like we see tiny homes and the movement there. We're watching an exodus of people moving away from cities. There's an indigenous elder here in Florida that told me, you know, there's some indigenous prophecies and things like that. Fascinating things that people will be called to return to the land. That's what feeds us. I mean, you look at just walking barefoot, right? Just the energy that the earth gives you, the energy the sun gives you. And, you know, you don't want to get too crazy with all that stuff, but there is this spiritual world all around us. But you can only really see it when your mind is clear. Otherwise, you'll be looking for it. You'll be flipping cards and say, yeah, this means this means this. But does it? You don't know because you're not thinking clearly. You'll start to live in this world where everything starts to make sense. And what I'm going through right now is, yes, everything starts to make sense, and I still struggle immensely, but you recognize it much faster, rather than you have that 6 o'clock beer, that 5 o'clock beer, that morning Bloody Mary. You don't recognize it as fast, or you wake up with regret. And that's where I'm at right now. When I wake up in the morning, I want that calmness that comes when you wake up with zero regrets and you give thanks and you charge forward. And before you go to bed, you kind of make some apologies. And I'm like, let's do it all over again tomorrow. It's sorry for all the rants, but
I love the rants.
It's a new world for me, man. And that's what I'm addicted to. I'm addicted to the new world. I don't like anything about the old world. I don't like, you know, consumption. I don't like destruction. I get pissed off when I see a True Green Lawn chemical truck in my neighborhood. Like, we have to stop. We have water issues. Like, it's the new, but you have to be very careful how you address this, right? But it's just, I wouldn't have known all of this if I was just still cranking beers and stuff. You know, I wouldn't see all of this.
Something that you said that's so important. And I think a reason a lot of people get lost is because we're stuck in that mass consciousness of what the world is telling us we're supposed to be. Are your goals, or are they the goals that you hear on TV that should be they're telling you this should be your goal. Yes. And I think that what you said was, what fuels your soul? What's that passion? And I think so many people are stuck in that mass consciousness. I need to work here and do this and look like this, wear these clothes, drive this car, live in this house. And when they can't achieve those things, they feel like failures. And when you feel like a failure, what do? You start drinking because I can't keep up with them, right? And then but here's the thing, nobody's keeping up. And then, you keep trying to do that, but you can't really afford to have the car, the house, the clothes. So you start putting it on credit cards. And then that stresses you out. So you start eating too much. And then you start drinking too much and smoking weed and snorting cocaine. And all of a sudden you have $100,000 in debt and you're stressed out. What just happened?
While your child is watching you, watching your every move.
Exactly. So in 20 and 30 years, they're in the exact same position. That's such a great, astute observation. But the idea is to find your passion. What fuels your soul? Yes. What gets you going? For you, I know it's environmental things. Yeah. For me, I love helping people. I do this. I don't do this to make money. I don't make any money doing this. Right. I do this to help people. If I can keep one person from wanting to commit suicide or be depressed or,
Amen,
their
dude.
wife.
Amen.
Yeah, I do this because if I can just keep one person from doing that and to have a better life, that's why I'm doing it. That's what fuels my soul. That's why I wrote my book. It's why I get on podcast episodes. It's why I coach people through addiction recovery. Yeah. And you have your environmental stuff, and then you also get involved in different aspects of all that. So I think a lot of people struggle. Like, what is your passion? What inspires you to get up every morning and be excited to hit the floor? And I think you have to find that. And until you do, you're going to continue to struggle.
What I'm finding is that the people that have a calling on their life, everyone has a calling on their life, right? I didn't go to college, broken family. My sister was well educated. She went to school in Canada and I was left alone, and I ran for the hills, ran for the mountains to go skiing and all this other stuff. And it was terrible. It was a terrible time in our life, but I immediately fell into the sales world, right? The business development world, right? Which trains you to hit goals. It trains you to be competitive, competitiveness is healthy to a certain extent, right? You should be competitive with yourself. So anyway, for doing that for so long, that I did exactly what you mentioned, is that if you want change, you have to look at your own passion. What are you passionate about? What are you really, really, really good at? If a salesman kind of peels back the layers, you're like, for me, it was good at uniting people. I've done everything from sell cars to selling advertising to bringing Fortune 500 companies together, right? And talking about cryptocurrency. Like, it just gets crazy. But in the essence, you peel all of that back, it came to bringing two people together and watching things happen. And people that you know and you trust, you cut selling the bullshit, right? And that's really what people need to look at. We want to be competitive. We want those things. But when you strip all of that away, if you truly are thinking clearly, you truly want change for your child or for your own life to have a better world, it's how can I channel my passion and what I'm truly good at, and good things will happen. I've been living by this mantra lately that if you put passion ahead of profit, good things will happen. Where most people will put profit ahead of passion and then everything breaks, or they'll keep chasing, they'll get on that. You're in a race with yourself. And the minute you win is the minute you run in sync with that spirit that lives inside of you. And for me, my kid is like my little tiny Buddha. I have him basically, he has these moments of clarity that are just crazy. But some people, God, the universe, they use different words. For me, I feel that if my child is judging me at all times, like, Dad, what are you going to leave? What kind of planet are you going to leave? What are you going to leave me? What are you going to teach me? That's when you start to look at him, or you look at your child, of what can you learn from them? And going back on what you said is, if you start to simplify your mind, think like a child, and use your imagination again, you will be successful. But what success means to you is defined by where you're at in life.
Yeah, well put. Don't let your idea of success be the world's idea of success, because you're never going to catch up to that.
No.
Right? As long as you keep chasing it, you're going to keep chasing it. It keeps getting farther and farther away. But when you focus on what fuels you, the money, the success, the things that you originally associated with that, instead of chasing those things, they're going to chase you.
It's a generational thing. I saw my dad do that. He took a buyout from a newspaper and wanted to do his own thing, and he wanted a second home, and and we all watched it, and he failed miserably because he was chasing. He wasn't. So you gotta just break those chains. It's the world consumes you.
I want to end with this because this has been such a fun talk. But since you were talking about your kiddo, how old is he?
He's 8. He just turned 8.
Right. And so if you can go back and talk to yourself when you were 8 years old, what would you tell that guy?
Really live your life with lust and love for each other, right? To keep that imagination, to keep that innocence, to not be consumed. That's just keep your blinders on to what's really important, and it's love and unity, really.
Well, it sounds like he's a lucky guy to have you for a dad.
I'm lucky to have him. He's the chosen one in our family. He leads us.
Yeah, it's nice to have that. Well,
Yeah.
what a great conversation. I love it. We'll have to do it again sometime. And thanks everybody for watching the Funky Brain podcast. Thanks, Vik Chhabra, for being here.
Appreciate what you do, man.
If somebody wanted to connect with you somehow, because you said you love connecting people, how can somebody connect with you and reach out to you?
Various ways. Twitter, which is @VikC, so that's VIKC, or email, which is vikc@protonmail.com.
Right on, everybody. Thanks for watching today, and have a great day today. Enjoy your life. Be happy and take chances, and find that thing that fuels your passion, that fuels your soul, and you'll be happier. So you can't think your way into a new way of acting. You have to act your way into a new way of thinking and being. Hi, I'm Dennis Berry, best-selling author, speaker, and life coach for addiction recovery. So many people are stuck in their addiction, whether it's like drugs or alcohol or food or shopping or sex or money, and they think they can just stop or try to figure it out on their own, but they don't change anything in their lives. Nothing changes if nothing changes. In order for change to happen, you have to change something. My clients will be like, oh, I'll stop tomorrow, or if this happens, then I stop, or someday I'll just give it up. And then they just sit around and think, and hope for different or better results, but it doesn't happen. You have to take action. Action most people aren't willing to take. People don't become willing until they're in enough pain, me included. And unfortunately, they wait, and time passes by. Even if you are willing, you don't even know where to begin. And that's where I come in. In my best-selling book, Funky Wisdom, A Practical Guide to Life, I talk about the how approach. How do I get sober? How do I stop doing drugs? How do I become healthier? How do I have more successful relationships? How do I become more financially successful? And the answer is how. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I have to honestly admit that there's a problem. I have to honestly admit that things aren't going well and there needs to be changes. And then once I do that, the door opens and I become open to seeing new ways of living. And then I become willing to make those changes. You can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. That's why I'm here to help. And, I've been working with clients for over 15 years and helping them get clean and sober and change their lives and achieve inner peace and success. If you or somebody you love is struggling and doesn't know where to begin and how to make those changes to get to where they need to be, give me a call. Not tomorrow or in a week from now when you're hungover and your life is falling apart. Call now. Start making that change today, and you'll be glad that you did. I'm sending you love and good vibes. Have a great day today.